This is our fourth part to our five-part series, our 5 for 5 that we're doing throughout the week as far as Bible study goes. We've kind of gotten in depth, a pretty good amount, but I do want to talk about the next two are going to be pretty important to our overall story, our overall lesson from this. I'm going to kind of wrap it up tomorrow. The video tomorrow might be a tad bit longer. But tonight we're discussing the darkness that preceded Jesus' death on the cross. And I want you to kind of picture it's 12 o'clock during the day, noon, the sun's out, it's right in the middle of the sky, the sun and moon are on totally opposite sides of the spectrum. It's not supposed to be dark. And it says in Matthew 27 and verse 45, it says, now then from the sixth hour, there was darkness over all the land until the ninth hour. Okay, so there's this claim that there was utter darkness in the place of Jerusalem, and not only in the place of Jerusalem, historians, people that wrote during this day and time to kind of keep up with the records, they made evidences of this in Greece, places like Italy, places like Turkey. They made evidences and they wrote this down because there was darkness over all of the land, over all the earth. So that means that it cannot be an eclipse, not to mention just that the sun and moon are on total opposite sides of the spectrum. But this was so dark, this darkness was so dark that you could also see the stars during this moment in time. So 12 o'clock, midday, when the sun's at its highest, it just all of a sudden went dark. And this man who is being hung on the cross claims to be the Son of God, claims to have power over this world, is saying different things, says that he can forgive sins, and he's sitting there on the cross. And then all of a sudden this day of darkness happens. Bystanders that are walking by, his apostles, his family that is sitting below him, and the people that he doesn't know, strangers, are sitting beneath the crucifixion cross and looking up at this king. And then he starts saying some things like, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why this darkness is happening? Why it's utter black? And you can look up and see the stars. An earthquake happened. And then it says, and behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two. This is after he says, it is finished, and he yielded up his spirit. And during this darkness, at the very end of this darkness, it says, and behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. When the centurion and those who were with him, while they were keeping watch over Jesus, he saw everything that was happening. The Roman guard saw everything that went on during this period of time. And he looked up and he figured out what had just taken place. They were all, the Roman guards there, they were all filled with awe and wonder and said, truly, this was the Son of God. Because they were in the hands of majesty. They just witnessed true power. And they just put him there. They nailed him to the beam. Just like they nailed him to the beam, our sins have nailed him to the beam. And there comes a point in time where everyone on this earth, whether it be in this life or the next life, they're eventually going to look at Jesus and look at God and realize what kind of power is up there making a sacrifice. They're going to eventually look at God and realize the wrath that could potentially come down on them. They and all of us have a right to fear that kind of power because that's where we came from. That's where we were created from ever since the beginning of time till now. That's what happened. God happened. And throughout this whole period of time, he has reigned supreme. Even though it may not seem like it sometimes, he is always in control. And this earth, the sun, the universe is always in his subjection. And we must understand that we are in that same subjection. And these people that are sitting at the foot of cross, sitting at the foot of the cross, looking up at the dead Son of God, realize what they have done, and they realize what kind of hands that they're in. They realize they have a reason to be terrified because of this darkness that looms over them. The temple being torn in two, the earthquake that happens, the earth shaking and the rocks splitting, the tombs being opened. All these catastrophic and crazy events happen at this point in time when the claimed Son of God dies. Would you believe the story? I think I would. That's going to wrap up our fourth part of the lesson. I hope you got a lot out of it. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the last little subject and kind of summarize our whole point of these lessons. Okay, bye y'all. Hope you have a good night. I love you very much.